The vastness of space stretched out before him, a sea of inky blackness dotted with pinpricks of distant stars. Samuel, a young human explorer, gazed out the viewport of his small spacecraft, his mind racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He had volunteered for this mission, a solo expedition to chart new paths through uncharted regions of the galaxy. It was dangerous work, but Samuel thrived on the thrill of discovery and the prospect of being the first human to encounter new alien civilizations. As his ship glided silently through the void, Samuel's sensors suddenly picked up an anomaly, a faint energy signature unlike anything he had encountered before. Intrigued, he adjusted his course and headed toward the source of the disturbance. After several hours of travel, Samuel's ship emerged from the inky blackness, and his eyes widened in awe at the sight before him. A massive alien spacecraft of a design unlike anything he had seen hovered in the distance, its sleek, angular lines and gleaming metallic hull unlike any human-made vessel. By the stars, Samuel breathed, his heart racing with a mixture of fear and wonder. What is that? Cautiously, he maneuvered his ship closer, his sensors scanning the alien craft for any signs of life or activity. To his surprise, the scanners detected a single life form aboard the massive vessel, and it was not like any alien species he had encountered before. Swallowing hard, Samuel activated the communication systems on his ship, broadcasting a message in the universal language of the Galactic Alliance. "This is Samuel Hawkins, human explorer, requesting peaceful contact with the occupants of the alien vessel. I mean you no harm and come in the spirit of exploration and cooperation. Please, respond if you can hear me." Silence stretched out for what felt like an eternity, and Samuel began to wonder if his message had been received at all. Then, to his astonishment, a response crackled to life over the communication channel. "Human," a deep, rumbling voice replied, its tone low and menacing. "You have trespassed into our domain. State your purpose, or be destroyed." Samuel felt a chill run down his spine at the threat, but he refused to let his fear show. "I am an explorer, representative of the Galactic Alliance," he replied, his voice steady. "I come in peace, seeking to establish contact and learn about your species. We mean you no harm." There was a long pause, and Samuel held his breath, wondering if he had just signed his own death warrant. "Your kind are not welcome here, human," the voice growled. "Turn back now, or face the consequences." Samuel's heart sank, but he refused to give up so easily. Gathering his courage, he responded, "Please, I come in good faith. If you would just allow me to approach and meet with you, I believe we could find a way to coexist peacefully." Another long silence, and then the voice spoke again, its tone slightly less hostile. "You are persistent, human. Very well, I will grant you one chance to approach. But know this, if you make any hostile move or attempt to harm me or my kind, you will be destroyed without mercy." Samuel felt a surge of relief, mixed with a healthy dose of trepidation. "Understood," he replied. "I will approach cautiously and mean you no harm. Thank you for this opportunity." Carefully, Samuel maneuvered his ship closer to the massive alien vessel, his mind racing with 1,000 questions. What manner of species had he encountered? Why were they so distrustful of other intelligent life? And what could he possibly do to convince them that he truly came in peace? As his ship drew within a few hundred meters of the alien craft, Samuel's sensors detected movement. A hatch on the side of the vessel was opening, revealing a dark, cavernous interior. Swallowing hard, Samuel guided his ship toward the opening, his palms sweating with nervous anticipation. Moments later, his ship passed through the threshold and found itself in a vast, dimly lit hangar. Gently, he set his craft down on the smooth, metallic floor, his heart pounding in his chest. "Well, here goes nothing," Samuel muttered to himself, taking a deep breath before disengaging the airlock and stepping out onto the alien vessel. The hangar was eerily quiet, the only sounds the soft hum of machinery and the distant echo of his own footsteps. Cautiously, Samuel made his way across the vast expanse, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the alien being he had spoken with. Suddenly, a movement caught his eye, and he froze, his breath catching in his throat. Emerging from the shadows, a massive bipedal creature came into view, its body covered in a sleek, armored exoskeleton. Samuel's eyes widened as he took in the sight of the alien. It was easily twice his height, with a powerful, muscular frame and a long, sinuous tail that lashed back and forth with a menacing grace. The creature fixed its piercing, golden eyes on Samuel, and a deep, rumbling growl emanated from its chest. "Human," the creature spoke, its voice a low, guttural rumble. "You have entered our domain. Explain yourself, or face the consequences." Samuel swallowed hard, his mind racing as he tried to formulate a response that would not provoke the formidable alien before him. I come in peace," he stammered, his voice shaking slightly. "I mean you no harm. I simply wish to learn more about your species and establish peaceful relations." The creature's eyes narrowed, and it took a step forward, its claws flexing ominously. "Your kind are not welcome here, human," it growled. "You have trespassed into our territory, and for that, you must pay the price." Samuel felt his heart skip a beat, and he took a step back, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "Please," he pleaded, "I mean you no harm. I'm simply an explorer, seeking to understand your people and forge a peaceful coexistence. If you would just—" His words were cut short as the massive alien creature lunged forward, its claws outstretched, ready to strike. Samuel braced himself for the impact, his heart racing as the massive alien creature lunged towards him. But just as the creature's claws were about to make contact, a deafening roar echoed through the hangar, causing the alien to abruptly halt its attack. Whipping its head around, the creature let out a series of guttural snarls, its attention now focused on something else entirely. Samuel took the opportunity to quickly take cover behind a nearby crate, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of what was happening. Peeking out from his hiding spot, Samuel's eyes widened in shock as he witnessed a second, even larger alien creature emerge from the shadows. This new arrival was a towering, fearsome-looking being, its body covered in thick, armored plates and its jaws lined with razor-sharp teeth. The two aliens began to circle each other, their low growls and menacing postures suggesting a fierce territorial dispute. Samuel watched, transfixed, as the creatures engaged in a brutal display of dominance, their claws and fangs clashing in a violent dance. As the battle raged on, Samuel realized that this was his chance to escape. Slowly, he began to back away, his eyes fixed on the fighting aliens, hoping to make it back to his ship unnoticed. But just as he was about to reach the airlock, a sudden movement caught his eye, and he froze in his tracks. The larger of the two aliens had noticed him, its glowing eyes fixed on Samuel with a predatory intensity. The creature let out a bone-chilling roar, its attention now solely focused on the human intruder. Samuel felt his heart skip a beat as the massive alien creature began to stalk towards him, its powerful muscles rippling beneath its armored skin. Trapped and with nowhere to run, Samuel braced himself for the inevitable, his mind racing with a desperate search for a way out of this dire situation. But just as the creature was about to pounce, a loud, commanding bark from the other alien caused it to hesitate. The two creatures exchanged a series of guttural snarls and growls, their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. Slowly, the larger alien backed away, its gaze still fixed on Samuel, with a mix of curiosity and wariness. The other creature, seemingly the dominant one, approached Samuel, its movements cautious and measured. Samuel held his breath, his body tense, as the alien drew closer. The creature lowered its head, its glowing eyes now level with Samuel's own. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, the air thick with tension. Then, to Samuel's astonishment, the alien let out a low, rumbling sound that seemed almost curious. It took a step closer, its massive head tilting to the side, as it studied the human intruder. Feeling a surge of both fear and fascination, Samuel hesitantly raised his hand, his movements slow and non-threatening. The alien watched his actions with intense interest, its eyes narrowing slightly. Holding his breath, Samuel gently placed his palm against the creature's snout, marveling at the smooth, leathery texture of its skin. The alien remained perfectly still, its gaze unwavering, as it seemed to contemplate this unexpected gesture. Moments passed, and Samuel felt a glimmer of hope begin to bloom in his chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could reach an understanding with this formidable alien species. Suddenly, a loud, reverberating roar echoed through the hangar, causing both Samuel and the alien to jump. The larger creature had resumed its aggressive posturing, its eyes filled with a primal fury. The dominant alien snapped its head around, letting out a series of angry growls and snarls. The two creatures engaged in a fierce display of dominance, their claws and fangs clashing as they fought for control of the territory. Samuel watched, transfixed, as the battle unfolded before him. He knew that he should take this opportunity to make his escape, but something compelled him to remain, his eyes fixed on the awe-inspiring display of the alien's raw power and ferocity. As the fight raged on, Samuel noticed that the dominant alien seemed to be deliberately positioning itself between him and the larger, more aggressive creature. It was as if the alien was protecting him. The realization hit Samuel like a jolt of electricity, and he felt a surge of hope and wonder. Could it be possible that this alien creature, a member of one of the most feared and dangerous species in the galaxy, was actually trying to defend him? The battle reached a crescendo, the two aliens locked in a desperate struggle for supremacy. Samuel held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest as he watched, praying that the dominant creature would emerge victorious. Finally, with a triumphant roar, the dominant alien landed a crushing blow, sending the larger creature reeling backwards. The larger alien let out a defeated growl and retreated, disappearing back into the shadows from whence it came. The victorious alien turned its attention back to Samuel, its glowing eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. Samuel held his ground, his hand still resting gently on the creature's snout, and to his amazement, the alien let out a low, rumbling sound that almost seemed approving. In that moment, Samuel knew that he had witnessed something extraordinary, a moment of connection and understanding between a human and the deadliest of alien predators. And with that realization, he knew that his life would never be the same. Samuel stood in the dimly lit hangar, his hand still resting on the massive, armored snout of the alien creature that had just protected him from the larger, more aggressive predator. The creature's glowing eyes were fixed on him, its gaze intense and unreadable. Slowly, Samuel began to withdraw his hand, expecting the alien to recoil or lash out at any moment. But to his surprise, the creature remained still, its powerful muscles relaxed, and its posture almost calm. "I don't understand," Samuel murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you protect me?" The alien let out a low, rumbling sound, its head tilting slightly to the side, as if it were considering the human's question. Then, to Samuel's astonishment, it took a step closer, its movements slow and deliberate. Samuel felt his heart racing, but he forced himself to remain still, his eyes locked with the creature's. He couldn't help but marvel at the sheer size and power of the alien, its towering presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Suddenly, the creature let out a series of soft, guttural sounds, its lips curling back to reveal rows of razor-sharp teeth. Samuel felt a shiver run down his spine, but he refused to show any sign of fear. Slowly, the alien reached out one of its massive, clawed hands, its movements cautious and controlled. Samuel tensed, but he didn't pull away as the creature gently brushed its fingers against his chest, as if it were examining him. The alien's touch was surprisingly gentle, and Samuel found himself mesmerized by the creature's curious exploration. It was as if the alien were trying to understand him, to learn about this strange, fragile-looking being that had dared to enter its domain. After a long moment, the creature withdrew its hand, its eyes narrowing slightly. Samuel held his breath, wondering what the alien was thinking, what it was going to do next. Suddenly, the creature let out a loud, commanding bark, and to Samuel's surprise, a smaller, sleeker alien emerged from the shadows. This new arrival was clearly a different species, its features more streamlined and its movements more agile. The two aliens exchanged a series of guttural growls and snarls, their conversation seemingly animated and intense. Samuel watched, captivated, as the exchange unfolded, wondering what they could be discussing. Finally, the smaller alien turned its attention to Samuel, its eyes fixing him with a curious, almost wary gaze. Samuel held his ground, his heart pounding in his chest as the creature approached him. To his amazement, the alien reached out a clawed hand, its movements slow and deliberate. Samuel braced himself, but the creature merely brushed its fingertips against his cheek, its touch surprisingly gentle. The alien let out a series of soft, almost trilling sounds, and Samuel swore he could detect a hint of curiosity in its tone. He couldn't help but wonder if the creature was trying to communicate with him, to understand him in the same way the larger alien had. Emboldened by the alien's apparent friendliness, Samuel reached out his own hand, slowly and carefully mirroring the creature's gesture. The alien watched him intently, its eyes narrowing slightly as Samuel's fingers made contact with its smooth, leathery skin. For a long moment, the two of them remained perfectly still, locked in a silent exchange that seemed to transcend the barriers of language and species. Samuel could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the unspoken questions and uncertainties that hung between them. Suddenly, a loud, reverberating roar echoed through the hangar, shattering the fragile moment of connection. The larger alien had returned, its eyes burning with a primal fury as it charged towards them. The smaller alien let out a warning growl, its body tensing as it prepared to defend itself and its human companion. But before it could react, the larger creature was upon them, its massive jaws snapping and its claws slashing. Samuel felt his heart leap into his throat as he watched the two aliens engage in a brutal, desperate battle. The air was filled with the sound of their roars and the sickening crunch of bone and flesh. Trapped and helpless, Samuel could only watch in horror as the fight raged on, his mind racing with a desperate search for a way to escape. But as he watched the smaller alien fight with such ferocity and determination, he couldn't help but feel a surge of admiration and awe. Finally, with a triumphant roar, the smaller alien landed a crushing blow, sending the larger creature reeling backwards. The larger alien let out a defeated growl and retreated, its eyes burning with a mixture of fury and fear. The smaller alien turned its attention back to Samuel, its eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. Samuel held his breath, his body trembling with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Slowly, the alien reached out and placed its massive, clawed hand on Samuel's shoulder, its touch surprisingly gentle. Samuel felt a surge of hope and wonder, realizing that in the midst of this alien world, he had somehow managed to forge a connection with one of the deadliest predators in the galaxy. As the two of them stood there, the weight of their shared experience hanging between them, Samuel knew that his life had been forever changed. He had crossed the line, breaching the barriers that had once separated humanity from the unknown, and he had emerged not just alive, but with a newfound understanding and respect for the alien species that had once been the stuff of nightmares. As the echoes of the fierce battle faded, a heavy silence fell over the dimly lit hangar. Samuel stood in awe, his hand still resting on the massive, clawed hand of the alien creature that had just protected him from the larger, more aggressive predator. The alien's piercing gaze was fixed on him, its eyes narrowed with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. Samuel could feel the weight of the unspoken questions hanging between them, the uncertainty of what this unexpected connection could mean for both their species. Slowly, the alien withdrew its hand, its movements measured and controlled. Samuel couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment, as if the loss of the creature's touch had severed a fragile bond that had been forged in the heat of battle. But then, to his surprise, the alien let out a low, rumbling sound, its tone almost reassuring. Samuel's eyes widened as the creature took a step closer, its massive frame towering over him, yet its posture relaxed and non-threatening. "What are you?" Samuel murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you protect me?" The alien regarded him for a long moment, its eyes seeming to search his face for some hidden meaning. Then it let out a series of guttural sounds, its lips curling back in what Samuel could have sworn was a gesture of understanding. Emboldened by the creature's apparent openness, Samuel reached out his hand, his movements slow and deliberate. The alien watched him intently, its gaze unwavering as Samuel's fingers brushed against its leathery skin. To his amazement, the alien responded in kind, its own massive hand reaching out to gently cup Samuel's face. The touch was surprisingly gentle, and Samuel couldn't help but marvel at the contrast between the creature's fearsome appearance and its surprisingly gentle demeanor. "You're not like the others, are you?" Samuel whispered, his heart pounding in his chest. "You're different." The alien let out a low, rumbling sound that seemed to vibrate through Samuel's very core. It was as if the creature was trying to communicate, to share some deeper understanding that transcended the barriers of language and species. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught Samuel's eye, and he turned to see the smaller, sleeker alien that had appeared earlier. The creature was watching them intently, its eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The larger alien let out a low warning growl, its body tensing as it moved to shield Samuel from the newcomer. But to Samuel's surprise, the smaller alien responded with a series of soft, almost trilling sounds, its posture relaxed and non-threatening. The two creatures engaged in a brief, almost conversational exchange, their guttural language filled with a complexity that Samuel could scarcely begin to comprehend. And then, to his amazement, the smaller alien approached him, its movements slow and deliberate. Reaching out a clawed hand, the creature gently touched Samuel's arm, its touch surprisingly gentle. Samuel felt a shiver run down his spine, the weight of the unspoken connection between them palpable in the air. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the very foundations of the hangar, and both aliens turned their heads towards the source of the disturbance. Samuel felt his heart skip a beat as he realized that the larger, more aggressive predator had returned, its eyes burning with a primal fury. The two aliens immediately sprang into action, their powerful bodies moving with a grace and coordination that left Samuel in awe. They engaged the larger creature in a brutal, desperate battle, their claws and fangs clashing in a violent display of dominance. Samuel watched, transfixed, as the smaller alien fought with a ferocity that belied its sleeker, more agile frame. The larger alien, for all its size and strength, seemed to be struggling to gain the upper hand, its movements increasingly frantic and desperate. Finally, with a triumphant roar, the smaller alien landed a devastating blow, sending the larger creature reeling backwards. The larger alien let out a defeated growl and retreated, its eyes burning with a mixture of fear and fury. The smaller alien turned its attention back to Samuel, its eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. Samuel felt a surge of awe and admiration, his heart racing as he realized the true extent of the creature's power and intelligence. Slowly, the alien reached out its hand, its movements deliberate and controlled. Samuel didn't hesitate, placing his own hand in the creature's massive palm. The alien's touch was surprisingly gentle, and Samuel could feel a sense of connection, of understanding, passing between them. In that moment, Samuel knew that his life had been forever changed. He had crossed the line, breaching the barriers that had once separated humanity from the unknown, and he had emerged not just alive, but with a newfound respect and kinship for the alien species that had once been the stuff of nightmares. As the two of them stood there, the weight of their shared experiences hanging between them, Samuel knew that he had to find a way to share this extraordinary encounter with the rest of the galaxy. The implications were staggering. The potential for cooperation and understanding between their species almost unimaginable. But for now, all that mattered was the connection he had forged with this remarkable creature, a bond that transcended the boundaries of language and culture. Samuel knew that whatever the future held, he would never forget this moment, this pivotal crossing of the Great Divide that had long separated humanity from the unknown. As the echoes of the fierce battle faded, Samuel found himself standing in the dimly lit hangar, his hand still clasped in the massive, clawed palm of the alien creature. The creature's piercing gaze was fixed on him, its eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and something akin to protectiveness. Samuel couldn't help but feel a surge of wonder and gratitude. This alien being, a member of a species that was widely feared and reviled throughout the galaxy, had not only spared his life, but had actively defended him against the larger, more aggressive predator. Slowly, the alien withdrew its hand, its movements measured and controlled. Samuel felt a pang of disappointment, as if the loss of the creature's touch had severed a fragile bond that had been forged in the heat of battle. But then, to his surprise, the alien let out a low, rumbling sound, its tone almost reassuring. Samuel's eyes widened as the creature took a step closer, its massive frame towering over him, yet its posture relaxed and non-threatening. "What are you?" Samuel whispered, his voice barely audible. "Why did you save me?" The alien regarded him for a long moment, its eyes seeming to search his face for some hidden meaning. Then it let out a series of guttural sounds, its lips curling back in what Samuel could have sworn was a gesture of understanding. Emboldened by the creature's apparent openness, Samuel reached out his hand, his movements slow and deliberate. The alien watched him intently, its gaze unwavering as Samuel's fingers brushed against its leathery skin. To his amazement, the alien responded in kind, its own massive hand reaching out to gently cup Samuel's face. The touch was surprisingly gentle, and Samuel couldn't help but marvel at the contrast between the creature's fearsome appearance and its surprisingly gentle demeanor. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the very foundations of the hangar, and both Samuel and the alien turned their heads towards the source of the disturbance. Samuel felt his heart skip a beat as he realized that the larger, more aggressive predator had returned, its eyes burning with a primal fury. The alien immediately sprang into action, its powerful body moving with a grace and coordination that left Samuel in awe. It engaged the larger creature in a brutal, desperate battle, their claws and fangs clashing in a violent display of dominance. Samuel watched, transfixed, as the alien fought with a ferocity that seemed to defy its very nature. The larger predator, for all its size and strength, appeared to be struggling to gain the upper hand, its movements increasingly frantic and desperate. Finally, with a triumphant roar, the alien landed a devastating blow, sending the larger creature reeling backwards. The larger predator let out a defeated growl and retreated, its eyes burning with a mixture of fear and fury. The alien turned its attention back to Samuel, its eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. Samuel felt a surge of awe and admiration, his heart racing as he realized the true extent of the creature's power and intelligence. Slowly, the alien reached out its hand, its movements deliberate and controlled. Samuel didn't hesitate, placing his own hand in the creature's massive palm. The alien's touch was surprisingly gentle, and Samuel could feel a sense of connection, of understanding, passing between them. In that moment, Samuel knew that his life had been forever changed. He had crossed the line, breaching the barriers that had once separated humanity from the unknown, and he had emerged not just alive, but with a newfound respect and kinship for the alien species that had once been the stuff of nightmares. As the two of them stood there, the weight of their shared experiences hanging between them, Samuel knew that he had to find a way to share this extraordinary encounter with the rest of the galaxy. The implications were staggering. The potential for cooperation and understanding between their species almost unimaginable. But just as Samuel was about to speak, a distant rumble echoed through the hangar, followed by the sound of approaching footsteps. He felt his heart leap into his throat as a group of heavily armed aliens emerged from the shadows, their weapons trained on both him and the alien creature. The alien let out a low warning growl, its body tensing as it moved to shield Samuel from the newcomers. Samuel could see the fear and uncertainty in the creature's eyes, and he knew that they were both in grave danger. Suddenly, one of the armed aliens stepped forward, its weapon raised in a threatening gesture. "Human," the alien growled, its voice laced with contempt. "You have trespassed into our domain and made an alliance with one of our most dangerous predators. For this, you must be destroyed." Samuel felt a chill run down his spine, his mind racing as he tried to find a way out of this dire situation. He knew that he could not reason with these aliens, that they were driven by a deep-seated fear and mistrust of his species. But just as the armed aliens were about to open fire, the alien creature let out a deafening roar, its massive frame blocking Samuel from the line of fire. The newcomers hesitated, their weapons wavering as they exchanged uncertain glances. Samuel seized the opportunity, stepping forward and raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Please," he pleaded, his voice trembling with emotion. "I mean you no harm. I've only come to learn and understand your people. This creature has protected me, and I believe that we can coexist peacefully if you will only give us a chance." The armed aliens regarded him with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity, their weapons still raised. Samuel could feel the tension in the air, the weight of their decision hanging in the balance. The air in the hangar hung thick with tension as Samuel stood before the group of heavily armed aliens, his heart pounding in his chest. The massive alien creature that had protected him now towered beside him, its gaze fixed on the newcomers with a mixture of defiance and caution. "Please," Samuel pleaded, his voice trembling slightly. "I mean you no harm. I've only come to learn and understand your people. This creature has protected me, and I believe that we can coexist peacefully if you will only give us a chance." The armed aliens regarded him with a mix of suspicion and curiosity, their weapons still raised. Samuel could see the uncertainty in their eyes, the internal struggle between their ingrained fear of his kind and the unexpected circumstances they now found themselves in. Suddenly, one of the aliens stepped forward, its eyes narrowed as it focused its gaze on Samuel. "Human," the alien growled, its voice laced with contempt. "You have trespassed into our domain and made an alliance with one of our most dangerous predators. For this, you must be destroyed." Samuel felt his heart sink as the alien raised its weapon, its finger poised on the trigger. He knew that in that moment, his life hung by a thread. His fragile connection with the alien creature, the only thing standing between him and certain death. But just as the alien was about to fire, the massive creature let out a deafening roar, its powerful body blocking Samuel from the line of fire. The newcomers hesitated, their weapons wavering as they exchanged uncertain glances. Samuel seized the opportunity, stepping forward once more, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Please," he pleaded, "I know this must seem unbelievable to you, but this creature has shown me kindness and protection. It is not the mindless killer you believe it to be. We can learn from each other, and perhaps even find a way to coexist peacefully." The armed aliens regarded him with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. Samuel could see the wheels turning in their minds, the weight of his words slowly sinking in. Suddenly, one of the aliens stepped forward, its weapon lowered slightly. The creature's eyes were filled with a glimmer of understanding, and it let out a series of guttural sounds that seemed to echo with a sense of contemplation. Samuel felt a surge of hope, his heart racing as he realized that perhaps, just perhaps, he could reach these strangers, to show them that the divide between their species was not as insurmountable as they believed. "You speak of coexistence," the alien said, its voice low and measured. "But how can we trust your kind when you have so often sought to destroy us?" Samuel swallowed hard, knowing that he had to tread carefully. "I understand your fear and mistrust," he said. "But please, look at what has transpired here. This creature has shown me kindness and protection, even in the face of your aggression. Surely that is a sign that we can find a way to bridge the gap between our peoples." The alien regarded him for a long moment, its eyes narrowed in contemplation. Then, to Samuel's surprise, it turned to the other armed aliens and exchanged a series of guttural sounds, its tone almost pleading. The other aliens seemed to hesitate, their weapons lowering slightly as they listened to their comrade's words. Samuel could see the wheels turning in their minds, the weight of the decision they now faced hanging heavily in the air. Finally, one of the aliens stepped forward, its weapon holstered. "We will consider your proposal," it said, its voice gruff but tinged with a hint of curiosity. "But know this, human, if you or your companions step out of line, we will not hesitate to destroy you both." Samuel felt a wave of relief wash over him, his body sagging slightly as the tension in the air began to dissipate. He turned to the massive alien creature, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and wonder. "Thank you," he murmured, his hand reaching out to gently brush against the creature's armored skin. "You've shown me that there is more to your kind than meets the eye." The alien regarded him with its piercing gaze, its massive head tilting slightly to the side. Then, to Samuel's surprise, it let out a low, rumbling sound that almost seemed approving. As the armed aliens began to withdraw, Samuel knew that he had taken a momentous step, not just for himself, but for the future of his species and the alien civilization he had stumbled upon. The barriers that had once seemed insurmountable were slowly beginning to crumble, and he could feel the weight of the possibilities that lay ahead. With a newfound sense of purpose, Samuel turned to the alien creature, his eyes filled with a mix of determination and wonder. "I don't know what the future holds," he said, his voice steady. "But I do know this. I will do everything in my power to ensure that our peoples can coexist in peace and understanding." The alien regarded him for a long moment, its gaze filled with a complexity that Samuel couldn't quite decipher. Then, with a slow nod of its massive head, the creature reached out its hand, its touch surprisingly gentle as it grasped Samuel's arm in a gesture that seemed to convey a silent promise. Together, human and alien, they stood at the threshold of a new frontier, a future filled with the promise of understanding and cooperation that had once been unimaginable. The air in the hangar was thick with tension as Samuel stood beside the massive alien creature, his heart still pounding from the confrontation with the heavily armed group of aliens. The creature's piercing gaze was fixed on the retreating figures, its powerful muscles tense and ready to spring into action at the slightest provocation. Samuel couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over him as the armed aliens disappeared from view, their weapons holstered and their footsteps fading into the distance. But the weight of the unspoken questions that hung in the air was palpable, and he knew that their fragile truce could be shattered at any moment. Turning to the alien creature, Samuel reached out his hand, his movements slow and deliberate. The creature regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and wariness, its eyes narrowing slightly as Samuel's fingers brushed against its leathery skin. "Thank you," Samuel whispered, his voice tinged with a sense of awe and gratitude. "You saved my life, and you've shown me that there is more to your kind than I ever could have imagined." The creature let out a low, rumbling sound in response, its tone almost reassuring. Samuel felt a surge of hope and wonder, realizing that in this alien world he had forged a connection that transcended the boundaries of language and culture. But just as Samuel was about to speak again, a distant rumble shook the very foundations of the hangar, and he felt a chill run down his spine. The creature's head snapped around, its eyes narrowing as it scanned the shadows for the source of the disturbance. Suddenly, a massive hulking figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes burning with a primal fury. Samuel's breath caught in his throat as he recognized the larger, more aggressive alien predator, the one that had posed such a deadly threat earlier. The creature let out a deafening roar, its powerful body tensing as it prepared to launch itself at its rival. Samuel felt his heart race, his mind racing with a desperate search for a way to defuse the situation before it spiraled out of control. But before the creature could attack, a series of guttural sounds echoed through the hangar, and Samuel turned to see the smaller, sleeker alien that had appeared earlier. The creature was moving towards the larger predator, its posture relaxed, and its movements almost placating. The two aliens engaged in a tense exchange, their voices rising and falling in a rhythmic, almost conversational manner. Samuel watched, transfixed, as the smaller alien seemed to be trying to reason with its larger counterpart, its tone almost pleading. Suddenly, the larger predator let out a rumbling growl, its muscles relaxing slightly. The smaller alien responded with a series of soft, trilling sounds, and to Samuel's amazement, the larger creature seemed to acquiesce, its gaze shifting from the smaller alien to where Samuel and the dominant creature stood. Samuel felt his heart skip a beat as the larger predator approached them, its movements slow and measured. He braced himself for the worst, his eyes darting frantically between the two alien creatures, wondering if he was about to witness a brutal battle that would surely end in his own demise. But to his surprise, the larger creature merely regarded him with a curious, almost contemplative gaze. It let out a low, rumbling sound, its eyes narrowing slightly as it seemed to study the human intruder. Samuel felt a surge of both fear and wonder, his mind racing as he tried to decipher the creature's intentions. He knew that he was standing in the presence of a being that was widely regarded as one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, and yet in this moment he couldn't help but sense a glimmer of understanding in its piercing gaze. Slowly, the larger alien reached out a massive, clawed hand, its movements deliberate and controlled. Samuel felt his breath catch in his throat as the creature's fingers brushed against his arm, the touch surprisingly gentle and almost inquisitive. The smaller alien let out a series of soft, trilling sounds, its posture relaxed and non-threatening. Samuel watched, captivated, as the two creatures engaged in a silent exchange, their eyes locked in a complex dance of communication that transcended the barriers of language. Finally, the larger predator let out a low, rumbling growl and stepped back, its gaze fixed on Samuel with a mixture of curiosity and respect. The smaller alien reached out its own hand, grasping Samuel's arm in a gesture that seemed to convey a sense of camaraderie. Samuel felt a surge of awe and wonder, his mind reeling as he tried to comprehend the significance of this moment. He had crossed the line, breaching the divide that had once separated humanity from the unknown, and in doing so, he had forged a connection with not one, but two of the deadliest alien predators in the galaxy. As the three of them stood there, the weight of their shared experiences hanging between them, Samuel knew that he had to find a way to share this extraordinary encounter with the rest of the galaxy. The implications were staggering, the potential for cooperation and understanding between their species almost unimaginable. But for now, all that mattered was the connection he had forged, a bond that transcended the boundaries of language and culture. Samuel knew that whatever the future held, he would never forget this moment, this pivotal crossing of the great divide that had long separated humanity from the unknown. As the echoes of the confrontation faded, Samuel stood in the dimly lit hangar, his gaze fixed on the two alien creatures before him. The larger, more aggressive predator had retreated to the shadows, its posture relaxed and its eyes no longer burning with the primal fury that had threatened to engulf them all. The smaller, sleeker alien stood beside Samuel, its hand gently resting on his arm in a gesture that seemed to convey a sense of reassurance. The dominant alien creature, the one that had protected him from harm, hovered nearby, its piercing gaze scanning the hangar with a mix of vigilance and calm. Samuel felt a surge of awe and wonder at the extraordinary turn of events. He had crossed the line, breaching the divide that had once separated humanity from the unknown, and in doing so, he had forged connections with not one, but two of the deadliest alien predators in the galaxy. As he stood there, the weight of these connections pressing down on him, Samuel knew that he had to find a way to share this extraordinary encounter with the rest of the galaxy. The implications were staggering, the potential for cooperation and understanding between their species almost unimaginable. But first, he had to ensure his own safety and the safety of the creatures that had shown him such unexpected kindness and protection. Turning to the smaller alien, Samuel spoke in a low, measured tone. "I must return to my ship and leave this place," he said, his voice tinged with a hint of regret. "But I cannot do so without your assurance that I will not be harmed by your people." The alien regarded him for a long moment, its eyes narrowed in contemplation. Then, to Samuel's relief, it let out a series of guttural sounds, its tone almost reassuring. The dominant alien creature stepped forward, its massive hand reaching out to gently grasp Samuel's arm. The human felt a surge of gratitude and trust as he realized that the creature was offering him a silent pledge of protection, a promise that it would ensure his safe passage. Nodding his head in silent acknowledgement, Samuel turned and made his way towards his ship, the two alien creatures flanking him on either side. As he passed through the hangar, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the sheer scale and complexity of the alien vessel. Once inside his craft, Samuel powered up the engines and prepared for takeoff. But before he could depart, he turned to the alien creatures, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and longing. "I will return," he said, his voice steady and resolute. "I will find a way to share what I have learned, to bridge the divide between our peoples. There is so much we can learn from each other." The dominant alien creature let out a low, rumbling sound, its eyes fixed on Samuel with a gaze that seemed to convey a sense of understanding. The smaller alien reached out its hand, its clawed fingers brushing against Samuel's arm in a gesture of farewell. With a heavy heart, Samuel fired up the engines and guided his ship out of the hangar, his eyes fixed on the receding figures of the alien creatures. As he broke through the atmosphere and into the vast expanse of space, he couldn't help but feel a sense of both elation and trepidation. He had crossed the line, breaching the barriers that had once separated humanity from the unknown. And in doing so, he had forged connections that transcended the boundaries of language and culture, connections that held the promise of a future where humanity and the deadliest of alien predators could coexist in peace and understanding. But as he navigated the vast reaches of space, Samuel knew that he would face immense challenges in sharing his extraordinary encounter with the rest of the galaxy. He could already imagine the skepticism and disbelief that his story would face, the deeply ingrained prejudices and fears that would stand in the way of true cooperation and understanding. Yet, despite the obstacles that lay ahead, Samuel felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. He had seen the true nature of the alien creatures, had witnessed their capacity for kindness and protection, and he knew that he had to do everything in his power to ensure that their story was heard. As his ship hurtled through the endless void, Samuel gazed out at the stars, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts and possibilities. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was ready to face them head-on, driven by the conviction that the future he had glimpsed was one worth fighting for. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose, Samuel set his course, his eyes fixed on the horizon, and his heart filled with the hope that one day, humanity and the alien predators would stand united, not as foes, but as allies in a boundless expanse of possibility.